Coming to you from Grand Rapids, Michigan, but broadcasting to the entire world. This is the Blue Collar Songwriting Podcast with your host, Stovepipe Stover. Today, we interview Lindsay Jordan of the Washington, D.C. based band Snail. Okay, today we are talking to Lindsay Jordan. She is the main person behind the band Snail, which is very new to me, but I very pleasantly found it on Bandcamp. So, Lindsay, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And so I'm excited for the interview because since you're new to me, I'm kind of coming out of this with a lot more curiosity than I might for somebody I already know a fair amount about. So this will be a nice open interview for you. But I guess my first question is what kind of give us a little bit of your relevant music background that led into your current Snail Mail project, and that can include, other bands you've played in, or some of the things that have brought you to where you're at now with Snail Mail.
Okay, so I started playing music when I was like 6 years old with guitar lessons. And then I kind of just started writing music like maybe not even like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Snail Mail is like my first band. It started off as like a solo project. It still sort of is in regards that I write all the music and do all the arranging and stuff. But yeah, this is my first like real project that I've been working with other people on.
Okay. And so the tape that I heard recently, Habit, yeah. And who is the majority of it you playing, or did you have other musicians come together? Kind of talk about that project.
Okay, so Habit is recorded with me on the guitar and vocals, and my friend Sean Durham on drums, and my friend Ryan Vieira on bass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not who is playing in the live trio anymore, but that's who's on the album.
Okay. And from my understanding, while the cassette is definitely kind of a solo endeavor, you do perform as a trio when you do live shows.
Right.
Okay. And how often are you playing these days?
We're trying to cut back a little bit because we started off in October and we're kind of just like playing every single show that we could, and now we're trying to do something like once every 2 or 3 months locally, and hopefully we can set up another tour
Mm-hmm.
sooner than later.
Okay. Do you have a day job?
No, I'm in high school.
You're in high school?
Yeah,
You're kidding me. I had no idea.
no.
Oh wow, geez, you're making great music. Like what grade are you in?
I'm about to be a senior.
Okay, okay. So high school's coming to a close this year.
Yeah.
So I feel like you've gotten some notice with this album. I mean, I found it on Bandcamp in their new releases, and they released some pretty big names on there, and it didn't take long to find a fair amount of info about you. So when did you start getting some notice for this recording that you made?
Um, the the album kind of started picking up speed like as it was coming out in July. Probably based on like the fact that we've been playing sort of a lot before it came out. So there was some like hype around it,
Mm-hmm.
and then also I just think Sister Polygon did like a good job releasing it and
Mm-hmm.
hyping it up. So it kind of just right off the bat has gotten attention, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Is it annoying when people like me say you're only in high school? when,
It's like it's fine.
okay.
I think like I have friends who play music who are in high school who like kind have a problem with it, but I'm like fine talking about it.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm
it's
truly
just like,
surprised. I guess the thing that surprises me is that that stylistically, and I mean this as big of a compliment as I've given an artist in quite some time. It reminds me a lot of the music that I'm 36. You know, it reminds me a lot of the music, kind of, Boston style punk, Blake Baby's Lemonheads, uh, that I listened to in the late '80s, early '90s. Almost even like some of the Pixies and that kind of thing. And so stylistically, it seems older than it is. Uh, who do you listen to that might
um,
you know?
I really like a lot of '90s stuff.
Okay.
But I don't know, I don't want to be that person that's like I listen to everything. But
Right.
I really really like Liz Fair.
Hmm.
And I really like Vashti Bunyan. She's really cool.
Oh, she's great.
I feel
Yep.
like I've like learned a lot from her songwriting.
Hmm.
I love broadcast, Psychic TV. Joni Mitchell is really cool.
Hmm.
I really like New Order
Hmm.
and like The Cure. I don't know. I love a lot of like punk stuff too. I'm like really into Julie Ruin's new record is like so good.
Who is this
Um,
again?
Julie Ruin, Kathleen Hanna,
Right. Right.
Wilcox's
Yep.
newer project. Yeah, I don't know. All kinds. I know all kinds of stuff is like the general answer, but definitely all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think the bad answer is always everything but country. You know, is what.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vashti Bunyan is one of those hidden treasures that it's entirely possible that we never would have discovered her or given her much attention. But, as, I never really got into Devondra Bonhart a whole lot, but they did dig up some pretty interesting musicians that time had forgotten almost,
Yeah, for sure.
Have you seen her play?
No,
Okay.
not live. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to happen a whole lot. Okay, so at the very least, you do have a ear for some music that definitely didn't come out when you were in high school.
Right. No.
Okay, I mean, do you go to a traditional public school or?
Yeah, public school in Maryland.
Okay, like my frame of reference is so specific to probably college and post college, and I mean, do you see a lot of people making music in your school? And I mean, not
No,
like band, but like, releasing cassettes, putting out stuff like you are.
no, definitely not. I live in like a suburb of Baltimore, and it's like a very like sporty area. So there's not a lot of people making music, but like when you get into like DC and Baltimore, which are like definitely not too far away, there's a lot more like there are definitely a lot more young people making music. So I have a lot of friends that live in the city. So I definitely see a lot of that. Like, there isn't any inside my school as of now. It would be really cool if there were.
Right. I mean, I sound so naive asking some of these questions. Are you part of a scene? And I hate that word probably as much as you do, but you know what I mean? Outside of school, are you actively involved with any sort of various bands and musicians that are playing out?
Yeah. We. Oh, I go to a lot of shows in Baltimore and DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I go see my friends in the band Priest all the time. They're like one of the best DC bands in my opinion. And definitely a lot of bands in the Baltimore music scene that we play with and get to see all the time. But not a lot of people my age are playing music, so I don't really get exposed to that stuff that much.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Trying to think of another good example. What's the question again?
I guess it's hard to form a question because I think my knowledge of how people in high school who are into music and releasing actual cassettes, which was unheard of when I was, I just guess I don't know how they operate. So I wondered if high school is like a mini, it has its own pockets of people who make music. But from the sound of it, it sounds like you're kind of just doing your own thing here.
Yeah, it's usually like I've definitely like spent more time working with people who are a little older. Like there isn't like a secret high school music scene. Although like I think that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I would be really into that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just wondered if like high school had some sort of microcosm of the larger indie, which tends to be a bit a bit older, at least in the 20s. Um,
Well, I mean, I actually, in DC, there's this thing called Knox, and we both are taught by the same guitar teacher,
mhm.
um, Mary Timoney, and so we kind of there's like definitely a lot of people who are my age who we all know because we all take lessons with her
Mhm.
who play in bands, so that's really cool.
Okay.
So I guess there is kind of like a little high school scene, but definitely not at my high school.
When do you do your writing and your recording, and when do you work on songs essentially?
Um, it's just like kind of just I have to like really be feeling it.
Hmm.
So it's just like really just like whenever I kind of feel inspired. So it's just like usually it's at like 8 o'clock. Like it's almost always around like a similar time.
Hmm.
Um, but never late at night, never early in the morning. It's
Hmm.
always just like around the same time. And just like I just like sit in my room and like write whenever I feel inspired to do so.
Do you have access to a fair amount of instruments and even software for recording?
No, definitely I have like a lot of guitars and I have like the bass and a drum set downstairs, but
Hmm.
I don't really like to do plant stuff. The first EP that I did by myself, I put out through GarageBand
Hmm.
using the Rock Band video game microphone because it has super clear connection. And my friend Sean, who plays on the record, told me that one of her bands had done that, and it actually came out super nicely,
Hmm.
which is kind of was shocking. But yeah, other than that, I don't really do my own recording. I record my own demos
Okay.
so I can like kind of like give the other members of the live band like reference,
Right.
and so that I can like work off of what I've written. But that's about it.
Okay. And are you hoping to? Is this something you want to do for a living when you're graduating and the whole
Yeah,
world is out in front of you?
that would be great if I can make that happen. Um, hopefully, I can just like keep coming up with new songs,
Hmm.
and then that would just be like the dream. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, do you have college plans? Sorry if my questions sound weird. I'm both delighted and flabbergasted to realize that you're in high school still. Because, as I said, it's one of the best recordings I've heard this year, and people send me stuff all the time, for the podcast. So, I mean, there is stuff to compare it to for sure.
Yes,
And it's wrong of me to be that prejudiced and to assume, oh, I shouldn't be surprised by that. But of course I am. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't. Wait, I forget what the question was.
Well,
Oh, college.
what are your plans coming up for the year? I mean, once you're almost done high school, the whole world's going to be ahead of you at your fingertips. What do you hope to do?
I I don't really have any. I really don't have any concrete plans yet. It's kind of scary.
Hmm.
I'm kind of hoping to go to college, just in like Baltimore City or in Philly. I don't really want to be too far from
Right.
kind of like what I've built here, with my band and like um, I don't know. I'm just like I'm hoping to go to college pretty close, and then hopefully keep doing the snail mail thing throughout college, and hopefully when I get out of college or whatever it turns into. I don't really have any ideas as to what I want to major in um, or
Hmm.
do right outside when I get out.
Not to make it about me, but if I could do it again and I were in your space, I mean, do whatever you want. I would never go to college. I would use all the money I spend in college loans and just buy as much equipment as I could.
Yeah,
But
I would love that.
yeah.
I think my parents want me to go.
Okay. Yeah. It's but I mean, you already have musical opportunities already, so it's not like those are just going to go away. I mean, if you're getting some notice this early in the game, that's a enormous leverage, for going forward.
Right. Yeah.
And
Hopefully I can utilize that.
yeah, what are some things that you find yourself writing about? And keep in mind, our podcast. A lot of the people who listen to this are interested in the songwriting aspect of it.
Right.
So, what are some things that you find yourself writing about?
I've written about like a lot of like stereotypical songwriting subject matter. I
Hmm.
definitely write about like crushes and like
Right.
like broken hearts and stuff like that. And a lot of the time I'll just write about like the way I'm feeling like right when I'm sitting down to write. Usually it's like if I'm writing, it's something that's pretty intense. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm in kind of like a self-discovery, like changing period of my life. So a lot of it is just kind of about like, becoming like comfortable as an adult,
Yeah.
and it's just like kind of what I'm experiencing, sort of just becoming like more mature and just like and more independent and like
Mm-hmm. You're at an
yeah,
interesting
I guess
spot.
that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're at an interesting spot to be writing music about, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seems like a lot of the people that are younger who are given attention. I don't know. I'm always kind of bothered by the approach they take. Either it's like, that whole put so much pressure on them while they're young to be artistic that they end up hating it later on and getting into a lot of trouble. Or it's like, I think of that girl who had that "It's Friday" song, or which I kind of liked. I mean, it was fun, but there's always
Wait, what
kind
song
of,
was it?
what was that song called? Like it's Friday.
Oh, Friday.
You know what I'm talking about, right? That I can't even remember.
Yeah, Rebecca Black.
Yeah, that's right. Or something like that where it's kind of a gimmick, but it doesn't really delve too deeply into the artistry of it, and I think that's often applied to people who are younger and doing music. So I hope you keep making what you're doing. I mean, it's interesting, and you mentioned. You do have some interest in the '90s. Again, that's hard for me to believe, just because that's what you listened to when I was in high school. Is that coming back a little bit, or were there other influences where you found a section of music history that was really before your time?
Yeah, I mean, the 90s was my favorite time for music. I've been delving like really deep into it
Mm-hmm.
lately, at least. A few years ago, I went to go see this movie, The Punk Singer, which is like a documentary about Kathleen Hanna.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it
it's a
kind
great
of,
documentary. Yep.
yeah, it kind of, yeah, it talks about like a lot of other 90s bands, which kind of, sort of like sparks my interest. And I've gotten really into like, I don't know, like through that, Ratmobile, Sonic Youth,
Mm-hmm.
Plant Six.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess that stuff's a little more punky. I also really, really like Mazzy Star.
Yeah, that's great. They're almost like shoegaze folk. They've got
Yeah,
some.
and I mean, I love shoegaze. Definitely like Slow Dive Ride.
Mm-hmm.
And also I like definitely the classics. Like I love Loveless
Mm-hmm.
by My Bloody Valentine. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess that's just like the type of music that I think is most inspiring. I didn't like directly try to emulate that sound, but I definitely am really inspired by it. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess it makes sense if it was showing up in the songwriting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Slow Dive is an interesting one because I kind of forgot about them, and they're back together. And I think My Bloody Valentine has been kind of here and there. Like they'll play a bunch, and then you'll never hear from them again, and then they'll play again. But
Yeah, no, I don't know. Um, yeah, I saw them in Chicago,
hmm
and I don't know. I actually don't know what year it was. Like Pitchfork Music Festival,
hmm
and it was incredible. I've never seen My Bloody Valentine. That was rule.
Yeah. I hear they're very loud, which is
Yeah, I
what
actually
other way would
also
you
heard
want?
that. I would definitely, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing them live
hmm
with earplugs.
Yeah. But even some of the newer, it's just interesting that I won't dwell too much on the '90s, but I know she's gotten a bit more mainstream notice over the past year. But like Courtney Barnett, uh,
Yeah, Courtney Barnett is really cool.
she's fantastic, and like I mean, I listened to that, and it sounds like what was played on the radio when I was in high school, and I've listened to what her influences are, and they are thoroughly a lot of the kind of music we've talked about that you've mentioned and such. And so it's just interesting to see that. Um, so you mentioned that your live shows are kind of here and there. Are you working on any future recordings, or do you have certain plans with the most recent one?
Yeah, And so I'm kind of just like buckling down and trying to like put out like the best 10 songs possible.
Yeah.
So I want to do a full release, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. We definitely do have ideas as to who we're gonna release it with. Can't say anything, but
Oh no, is it
yeah.
exciting?
What's up?
You said you can't say who might be releasing it?
Yeah, we just have a few possibilities that we're looking at.
Okay. Are they pretty
But
exciting
yeah,
possibilities though? Can you tell us that?
what's up?
Are they pretty exciting possibilities though?
Yeah, absolutely, really
Okay.
exciting.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of in the works.
Yeah, hopefully, if we can just like, if we can kind of get it together and put out songs that are like worth releasing in a cool way. I feel like the pressure's sort of on now, just because like those 6 songs that are out on the EP were sort of written more naturally and like not with the intent of putting out a release. They were just kind of sort of already there.
Right.
And I just sort of wrote them as like a journalistic, just like doing it for myself type of thing. And then we sort of got approached by a friend who was like, oh, well, we should release this on our label. So that's kind of how it became a release. But this is like where I'm sort of writing with the intent of putting out a release, which is a little more stressful.
Right. Absolutely. Now, as far as the physical medium, cassettes, I'm glad they're coming back. I do music as well, and I released a CD and a cassette, and the cassette sold way more than the CD. So that was kind of a lesson in mediums and how some of the older, more time tested ones are coming out. But
Right.
what was the thought put into the cassette? Was it just something you wanted to do? Was there some purpose behind it? How did that come to be?
Sister Polygon mostly does cassettes. They sometimes do vinyl releases. So we all kind of talked about it and decided that a cassette was like the best idea. I mean, they're like pretty cheap to make. Starting when we kind of started off with like as a band, just like not that much money.
Yeah.
And so we kind of just started off with the cassette release. And it went really well. So maybe in the future it'll be a record. I'm not sure yet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just seems like the smartest idea at the time.
Right.
And they're kind of people are definitely buying cassettes more than they were before.
Right. What's your preferred medium to listen to music on?
I used to definitely buy records. I have like a pretty big record collection, but I actually like I'm like trying to like I drive now, so I have to buy my own gas. And I have a summer job, so I actually haven't bought a record in a really long time. But I definitely prefer to listen to records. They're just kind of expensive.
They are. Yeah, they definitely gain value, which is kind of the appeal of spending a little bit more, and they do sound a certain way that seems to work,
Right.
But cassettes, I don't know, they have kind of a kid-like quality that I like, like
Yeah.
and you mentioned you said that you listen to a fair amount of punk and such, and I'm sure in Washington D.C. that's just kind of inevitable, correct?
Yeah. Washington D.C. has an amazing punk scene.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I mean, I found out about punk through cassette tapes, and so I mean, and I do notice a little bit. I wouldn't say your music's punk, and I know punk is kind of hard to describe because people often just think of, British accents and power chords, but it's really just a sort of
Right.
like approach to music, which is, heavy on melody but minimal on resources, really, and I do notice that in your music that it has that kind of aesthetic where it's minimal, but it does have it kind of builds, the music itself. I was pretty impressed with how large your music sounded, but at the same time I knew that you didn't like have a ton of resources, at your disposal to make it.
Right. Yeah.
So, what I mean, are you in? When I think of the DC punk scene, I think of course, like Fugazi and Bad Brains and all that. I mean,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
How would? Do you have any involvement in it at this point?
Yeah. I mean, that's like those bands are. I mean, they're not playing anymore, but the modern Dixie punk scene is like pretty heavily revolved around. I mean, the not hardcore DC punk scene.
Right.
It's more revolved around bands like Priest.
Mm-hmm.
Slasher is like a newer Baltimore, we have Coast Pink,
Okay.
and they're really cool. The DC punk scene is definitely like sort of how I got into music, live music at least, and just definitely where I've met like most of my friends. And so yeah, I definitely would say I'm involved in it. Um, they still have a lot of really cool punk shows at like St. Stephen's.
Hmm. The Evens?
And I actually what
Did
St.
you
Stephen's?
the
It's like
one?
a church.
Did you say the Evens like Ian Mackay and his wife?
Yeah, they come to shows and stuff.
Oh,
They're pretty
okay.
involved.
Yeah, we've had him on here
Oh, that's tight.
years ago. Yeah, we just like called him up and he answered. He's pretty accessible.
Yeah, he's really sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone in DC like seems to be doing stuff for the right reason, and like the punk scene's still very much alive. I wasn't alive when it was like poppin'.
Hmm.
With bands like Fugazi and Bad Brains and like Bikini Kill, but yeah, it's still really cool. It's still like very much alive, and people down here are still like really, really into punk.
Okay.
I definitely say it's like a cool scene. It's definitely like taught me a lot.
Okay. Like, have you met? I don't want it to turn into like, have you met this celebrity? But have you met? I mean, you're on Discord to some degree. Have you met Ian Mackay? Has he heard your music?
Yeah, we actually have never talked about Snail Mail. I see him at shows like all the time.
Okay.
I don't know if he has ever actually heard Snail Mail. Maybe it's on Discord, but like since Discord's distributing it, but I think that might just be as a result of like Sister Polygon.
Right.
So I don't I actually don't know if Ian knows about
Okay.
Snail Mail. I've like never had any interest in asking him. So, like he definitely might.
Yeah. That's the thing about you mentioned the hardcore scene. That's the part of punk that I never had much interest. To me, punk was a way to like find other like kind of weird people like myself, and the thing about hardcore. And someone told me that it started off more accepting of different types of people, but it always to me just seemed like a bunch of meatheads, in mosh pits and such. And the music itself just never did it for me. Whereas punk itself is, I mean, definitely as favorite of a genre as I can think of, next to folk and such.
Yeah, hardcore. I definitely think like there's definitely like meathead, like it's like dude like scary like punch each other in the face hardcore. But I think there's also like there's kind of like at least there were a lot of really cool hardcore bands.
There were,
that
okay.
Like I definitely really like Hysterics. I know they're not a band anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We played with one band at Unregistered Nurse Fest at our first show.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't remember what they were called. I want to say Blank Spell. They're a really cool hardcore band.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of just depends what you qualify as hardcore, but
Right.
I really like Nervosa's. That band is cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I definitely see the appeal of skipping hardcore shows, but I
Okay.
think it has a space.
So you're saying from your involvement in it, you've actually seen a more positive end of it. I'm so divorced from the hardcore punk thing that I don't even know what's going on. So I'm probably not much of an authority, but you've seen a positive take on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I like hardcore bands that aren't all dudes. Usually,
Yeah.
leave, like a better impression on me.
That seems like it would make all the difference, really.
Yeah, to me at least. I don't know.
It seems like you mentioned the. I'm not sure exactly what direction this will take the conversation, but I've really thought a lot about, as I've talked to different singer songwriters and musicians, is just what it means to be, the perspective and the experience of women in the music scene. And I think lately I've seen two things. One is that kind of, I guess, in a post-Trump world where there's like this machismo that's so ridiculously laughable, but still has some power, that it makes people realize, wow, sexism is still a problem. We thought it wasn't, but it is. So there's that part. But the other part is just the various musicians I've spoke with, females have brought up just how sexist their experience of music has been, but also how they've been empowered from other examples to bring that message out. And I'm just wondering, I mean, what is, as a female, how do you think your perspective is of the music scene has been.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I've had a lot of like unfortunate like run-ins with like definitely sexist people at shows. There's like almost it almost doesn't seem real
Yeah.
when you go to a show and you hear something like, oh man, like you guys are like you're a great guitar player for a girl. Like you still hear that in 2016.
You still hear that,
I
huh?
think like yeah, actually, like all the time. We've definitely played a ton of shows, like bills with all dude bands, where I've been like the token girl on the bill so that more people come.
Mm-hmm.
We've met like an insane amount of just like kind of like frat bro music dudes that just like sort of like run the world and like and think they like own everything. So there's like absolutely still sexism everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I know you've been talking about Cousin Hannah a lot,
Yeah.
but I saw the Julie Ruin the other day, and I mean, there were people like, there were dudes like yelling out machismo shit, like, or stuff, sorry, the whole time. Which is kind of shocking because I mean, like, you know, you go to a show, you go to a Julie Ruin show and you don't expect to see stuff like that.
Right.
It's literally everywhere.
That's so strange. I mean, is there anything? Is there certain things that you really hope do change, and are there any things that you like, even suggestions how we could be more sensitive to that part of it? Because I think a lot of people are truly sexist, and others are, and they're sexist in that they say horrible things about women, or it's even more subtle, like, oh, you play drums and you're a woman, that's weird. And then there's others who I think are so unaware of how sexist their language is that it's not that they're trying to like be bad to females. It's just it's ingrained. And so when you hear a different perspective that challenges it, that's really what makes the difference. I'm just wondering, is there certain things that you've seen that you really hope disappear, and are there other more positive things that you hope we take on a bit to make things a bit more inclusive of everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we need to like definitely be more conscious about making space for musicians who aren't men,
Mm-hmm.
like and kind of just like maybe just encouraging girls and people who aren't men to just like pick up guitars and play music rather than just be fans.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely stepped into quite a few shows where like the norm is kind of to have a bunch of guys up on stage and then have a bunch of girls kind of like cheering them on. We've definitely played those types of shows before. So I think that the best we can do is just sort of like listen to marginalized groups' opinions and just kind of like hear them out and
Mm-hmm.
and maybe just encourage them to play music rather than watch music. We have
Right.
like lots of cool stuff in the works. Like one of my favorite publications is She Shreds magazine, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like absolutely coming at this whole thing, trying to change it for the better, and
Mm-hmm.
they feature like lots of cool non-male artists, and are definitely like kind of a bright shining light because I
Yeah.
think they are sort of encouraging people everywhere to just like to sort of just make space for
Right.
girls and women and sort of just provide a platform
Right.
for just like people that don't always get a voice at shows and stuff. So I think it's just more about making space and listening.
Yeah. Do you foresee things getting better at the rate that you see them happening at this point?
No. I mean, I think they're getting better, but definitely not happening fast. There definitely are like in the media there are like a lot of really inspiring women producers and musicians, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is sort of kind of like slowly showing the world that there's like that not all producers are men, which I think is cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I mean I think Beyonce is a good example. Like she plays with other women musicians and women producers. Like, usually, like I know Caroline Polachek,
Mm-hmm.
that band Chairlift, produced one of her songs and wrote it
Mm-hmm.
on the second to newest album. And I kind of sort of was talking to her the other day about it's not so much the fact that women are like scared to start doing stuff like that, but I think the reason a lot of women aren't doing production and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that in like on like a greater scale is just because people people think it's like a man's job and like someone can do it for them.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying that's women, but I'm saying like that's just sort of how a lot of people are taught is how it goes. So I just think we just need to be encouraging people who aren't men to like learn about production and just like work on bringing other people who aren't men into the music scene.
Right.
But there's definitely lots of amazing bands that aren't men coming out now that I think is like sort of inspiring. And I think sort of the mainstream music world is like, it's not necessarily run by women, but a lot of the people that are in the public eye right now, like that are like famous musicians are women, which I think is something that is helping us sort of improve.
Yeah. You hope so, at least, right?
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, it's the same thing. It's just funny that, I mean, so much of punk music and really any sort of, I guess, rock and roll was sort of the art of outsiders, people that didn't feel like they fit in totally to their surroundings.
Right.
But even those things end up becoming essentially male driven. I mean, you think of the bigwigs from, the sort of punk circles we're talking about, Ian MacKaye, Steve Albini, and these are people who I've heard speak, passionately against sexism and seem to try, but still it just shows how big of a beast it is. And I mean, I remember going to some sort of convention, and it was more of a local one, and a woman stood up and she goes, I bet every woman in this room feels uncomfortable when they go to concerts even still. And we were all like, really? Why? I mean, the places you go to aren't they're progressive places, but they're saying, no, it's just like you can tell there's still a big problem that prevents the kind of progress that would lead to people like ourselves making more music or seeing more music and supporting it that way,
Right, for sure.
And even like even things like transgender, queer, LGBT, that kind of you're seeing a little bit more of that. I mean, certainly culturally, it's becoming more accepted, fortunately. But you are seeing more. Like, I didn't even know that genre existed when I was a kid, and now I think everyone at least knows that. That there is that segment of the population who are doing music and have a certain message that they're trying to convey.
Yeah, I think at least I think people are becoming like a little more aware of like kind of okay. I mean, I guess definitely I can't say things aren't getting better because definitely people are becoming more aware like of social issues. Like more people are comfortable coming out, and definitely like more people are getting educated. So I guess things are definitely moving forward in that sense.
Right. Yep.
Shows, a lot of shows are really inclusive, especially in the DIY scene. But there definitely are a lot of shows where I could see not feeling comfortable being trans or like a member of the LGBTQ community at all, or even just like a woman, or being someone of color. Because I think a lot of shows really are just a lot of just like straight white guys, and then you see the crowd and it's all straight white guys and their girlfriends. It's not really super encouraging.
Right.
So yeah, I think we do need to work on making more safe spaces, but I think there definitely are more than there used to be.
Right. I mean, you hope that the progress doesn't stop. I know it's been such a weird year this year. I mean, people are angry, and it's like,
Right. Yeah.
People seem to have a license. There's that whole war on political correctness, but now it's just people being incredibly mean to each other, and well, my last question is just what are some ways that people can find out about you? What are some projects that you're working on that are going to be public? I want to get as many people listening to your stuff as I can, and also raise awareness of some of the things you've brought up about sexism and just safe spaces. So what are some things you want people to know about that you're doing?
Okay, so the only project musically I've been working on has been Snail. And you can find that stuff up on like Spotify or Bandcamp or Last.fm or iTunes. But project-wise, I don't know. I haven't actually. I haven't gotten to really do much like booking lately. I was working on something with my friend Katie cool show in DC, but actually I had to drop it because we are playing with Allison Wolf's new band Sex Stains in Baltimore the same night. So I haven't really got to like work on anything. But you know, yeah, I mean that's where you can find Snail Mail stuff.
Okay. Yep. And do you plan on touring in the Michigan area anytime soon?
That would be tight. Yes, I've actually never been to Michigan.
Okay.
That would be really cool. Hopefully by summer. We're kind of trying to hopefully we can make this work, but we're sort of trying to do like a full U.S. next summer.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's plenty of options.
Yeah,
I mean.
hopefully we can hit Michigan.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us today. And I'm excited to get the word out about you, not just this interview, but going forward. I think it's great stuff, and I think people need to hear it. So we really appreciate you chatting with us all today.
Yeah, thank